What's going on, everybody? My name is C4. Welcome back to more C4, your home for all things Philadelphia Eagles football. And this offseason, on our channel relaunch, we had 2 uploads last week. Thank you guys very much for checking that out as we talked about the Eagles' new OC. We also reacted to Januel Jeremiah's most recent mock draft where he had the Philadelphia Eagles going Malachi Starks. But today, on Monday, and every Monday until draft season, I'm doing a mock draft Monday for the Philadelphia Eagles. In particular, 7-round mock drafts every single week because this, we're getting into combine season. The big boards, these mock draft simulators are about to be going all over the place. So I think there's going to be a great opportunity here to see a bunch of different potential scenarios for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the biggest thing for the Eagles is where's our roster going to look like? What are the plans for this roster? Zach Baun, Mekhi Becton, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat. Even you go in the secondary tier guys. Fred Johnson is valuable depth. Kenny Gainwell is valuable. A lot of players. Isaiah Rodgers at corner. Darius Slay at corner. Slay. Not there. We won't use the government name. So many options with how Philly could and could not handle free agency that would drastically change how you would want a mock draft for the Philadelphia Eagles. So, with that being said, I think the first big worry, and I think I can speak for every Philadelphia Eagle fan, is imagine, and I mean for me, I'm going to be live streaming the first round on my main channel, so I'm going to be there anyways. But if you have no connection to these other teams, not a huge draft guy, but you want to watch and wait to see who Philly picks, imagine waiting to this point and then Howie Roseman trades out of pick 32. Like we did when we traded with the Ravens so they could come up and get Lamar Jackson. Like that could happen. Howie could be working some magic. The right offer comes in. Now, I will say in this just fantasy scenario, if that trade does happen and it means Myles Garrett's coming one way, I think we could all live with that. But as it stands right now, at least in this scenario, I will not trade. I will not punish you like that. Philly is on the clock at pick 32. Very interesting how pick 32 could go. I think you got to start looking at tight ends, right? If Colson Loveland or Tyler Warren's still here, it is and it isn't similar to what happened when we drafted Dallas Goedert while we had Zach Ertz. We did that because we're like, all right, maybe 2 tight ends could work. Ertz is getting up there a little bit. Now, if we drafted a tight end now early, it's similar from a talent standpoint, but we're doing this because Dallas Goedert unfortunately just can't stay healthy. Now, Grant Calcaterra is a good receiving backup, not a good all-around backup. Dallas Goedert's an all-around tight end. They're not a like-for-like replacement, but given this board, it's a strong draft class for tight end. You probably could wait, which I think we will. Tackle's another interesting position. I think Becton's is maybe the biggest question mark for me at free agency that I can't get a read on. Zach Baun's going to get paid. Hopefully it's by us. Zach Baun's getting paid. Milton Williams is getting paid. Josh Sweat is getting paid. Then you get to the kind of the muddy waters. Like what's going to go on with Slay? What's going to go on with Isaiah Rodgers? Mekhi Becton is the biggest question mark because teams are absolutely desperate for offensive linemen. We've seen Isaac Seumalo. We've seen Big V get huge contracts, leaving Stoutland U. Is Mekhi Becton the next in that long list of names? There's also the question mark of teams that are bidding for this are like, is Becton just playing like this because he's with Stoutland and in this winning environment? And are we going to get Philadelphia Eagles Mekhi Becton? Or are we going to get the Mekhi Becton that was a headache for the Jets? It just didn't work out, right? What if Mekhi Becton goes to a team, gets a big payday, and it turns into be another Jet scenario where it's not a great environment for him? Clearly, he has had some off-the-field issues that relate to performance on the field. Maybe teams are a little bit scared off from backing the Brinks truck up to pay Mekhi Becton. And for Philadelphia, what's the word of Mekhi Becton? Like, he's sure, fine, yes, keep him at right guard, absolute mauler. He's only 25. Like, if you get him on a long-term extension, are you viewing him as Jeff Stoutland told Howie Roseman? Like, I think he could kick back out and be Lane Johnson's successor. And then that enters a whole nother level of value that Mekhi Becton can bring because, I mean, if that's not the case, it's never too early to look for a Lane successor. Ursery, Cam Williams, Emory Jones, maybe not Millam a little bit on the smaller side. Like, those guys absolutely could be Jeff Stoutland Ryu enrollees at pick 32. I don't think we go interior line. Donovan Jackson, versatility is huge. He played everywhere on the offensive line, center guard and tackle. Maybe. You look at the D-line, you got to try to replace Milton Williams for sure. Do you have a Milton Williams replacement? Harmon's one of those guys that, I think a lot of people in the know, which I'm never going to say that I know more than people in the know, like him more than what I saw out of Oregon. He was a Michigan State transfer, I believe. Don't love that pick. Jack Sawyer at pass rush. He's coming off a great year at Ohio State. I don't know how, athletically he'll test to be, going in the first round. Corner, Ravel's coming off a pretty significant injury, but the last time we got a small school legit corner prospect in Quinyon Mitchell, it worked out. But I really think I look at this secondary, and I just want to see the guys that we have get out there and see what they do. Like, I think Keely Ringo could be a starter, right? Like, I could see a total scenario where you have Quinyon Mitchell at the 1, Keely Ringo on the 2, and you keep Cooper DeJean in the slot, and like you feel pretty good about that. Maybe you bring back Isaiah Rogers on a reasonable contract. That's outstanding depth. Then you wouldn't really need to feel the need and urge to draft a DB early. Safety's another one. We're like, okay, the board is what it is. The reason why I'm going around linebackers, I think this is my pick. I think at its core, this could be your Zach Baun replacement. Jahad Campbell is an off-ball linebacker, big-time athlete that can rush the passer. Zach Baun, how he emerged for the Eagles defense. Maybe more of like, holy shit, he can do everything sideline to sideline we need for a linebacker, drop back into coverage. But Zach Baun also would line up at pass rush and rush the passer because that is his background. So I think if we cannot replace and re-sign Zach Baun, which still should be priority number 1, if we cannot, Jahad Campbell is the best number 1 guy to replace Zach Baun on this defense. So that is where we're going to go in the first round. And I'm not drafting this, honestly, to say this is Zach Baun's replacement. I would like to think that even if you bring back Zach Baun, Jahad Campbell, I think, and many people think he's going to be a pass rusher. He's going to test. He's going to be Nolan Smith's probably going to end up being the comp. Jahad Campbell, Jalen Walker from Georgia, like both those guys are like twitchy hybrid linebacker types. And you know what's better than one Nolan Smith? 2 Nolan Smiths. You know what's better than 1 Nolan Smith and 1 Zach Baun? A guy that's kind of both of them. Maybe don't have the coverage ability of Zach Baun, but I would give all the traits of Jahad Campbell, and I wouldn't view this as Howie Roseman going linebacker in the first round. I would have this Howie Roseman going edge that can wear a lot of hats on the defense in the first round, which is certainly, it goes in line with his reputation. So moving on into the second round at pick 64. Looking at who's available here for the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, tight end. We get Emory Jones at tackle. Now, I think Tate Ratledge, again, what we're going to do with guard. Mekhi Becton walks at guard. If they still don't think Steen's the guy or whatever, like Tate Ratledge has the Georgia Bulldog, Howie Roseman. Also, Jeff Stout likes some giants. He just likes giants. And Ratledge is like, 6'6", 330. Absolute monster of a human being. I think someone like Landon Jackson, he could be an interesting one if they really want to maybe have 2 guys to replace Milton Williams. You have Ojomo. I think Ojomo and Thomas Booker could probably do the job. But if not, I think Landon Jackson, he's like 6'6", 280, 285. Could have him kick inside and potentially fill that void. But I'm going to be, and I did this in my last mock draft for the Eagles, I'm buying in on Deion Walker. I'm buying in on the upside. 6'7", 345, had 8 sacks 2 years ago at Kentucky when Kentucky was a somewhat serviceable team. I would love to see if Vic Fangio, who pretty much everyone on the defense, not named Bryce Huff, had arguably their best year under Vic Fangio. He has done nothing to say that he's not a talent developer and can't get the most out of his team. So if he can get the most out of Walker, who has upside of being a blue chip player from this class, I think you need to strongly consider it. Now, continuing on, this is interesting. Now, my heart is saying C4, do it. But I think the team likes Will Shipley enough that even if we don't keep Kenny Gainwell, I think we will. I think, and I've said it all along, that Howie Roseman let Nick Sirianni make his best friend, the OC. And I think he's going to be like, Nick, I know Kenny Gainwell's your favorite player on the team. We'll resign him. We'll resign him. We'll bring him even though we don't need to. But oh my God, Scotto will be so awesome in Philly. But looking at the board here, my steal at tight end is already off the board, unfortunately, in Jake Ferguson of Oregon. So we'll go Gunnar Helm, who is kind of the most consistent chain mover on a very potent Texas offense last year. And, we kind of just get our tight end fit there. Now we're going into kind of like our value picks, and I think this is where you start to look and like really, really assess, BPA. Maybe not necessarily finding needs at this point, but find who's going to be an awesome player. And I think, honestly, looking at this, I would run to the podium. Chris Paul Jr., big-time athlete out of Ole Miss. Again, Jahad Campbell, I'm viewing him as like a pure hybrid. Chris Paul is an off-ball linebacker, sideline to sideline. We don't know when Nakobe Dean's going to be ready. I wouldn't hate bringing Oren Burks back, but I don't think you could go into the year being like, all right, Oren Burks is going to be a starter, then when Nakobe Dean comes back, yada, yada. I think you still want to try to strengthen that position because, I mean, as much as I love Nakobe Dean, has he earned enough to get another contract? Has he earned enough for us to say that's our linebacker of the future? If we lose Zach Baun, Nakobe's out with an injury, like linebacker's a big question mark that I do think, like, do they give Jeremiah Trotter Jr., like a chance to carve out a starting role? Maybe. But I would say maybe the one negative of Vic Fangio, it does feel like with Trot, does feel like with Sidney Brown, like Kid Keely Ringo to a certain extent. Like the young guys, he's making them earn it, you know? Like for every Alex Hunt who gets out there and surprisingly plays a lot for in his level of experience, there seems to be 2 to 3 every other guys at other positions that just, for whatever reason, like Tristan McCollum was getting reps over Sidney Brown. Like sometimes frustrating decisions like that. So, with that being said, I think getting a little bit more stability at linebacker with a legit sideline-to-sideline SEC speed player and Chris Paul, that's great. I don't think he'll be there at 129, but we'll take advantage as long as he is there. Outside of this, moving on, JJ Pegas is everything. Quarterback, fullback. He's that Spice Adams meme where it's just like quarterback, fullback, punter, D-tackle, DN, guard, nose tackle. He plays everywhere. But I don't know. I think at this point, this is when you'd be looking at like a developmental tackle. And I've talked about this guy here, GCL from Oregon State. He could be a Jeff Stoutland. But to switch it up just a little bit, I think Logan Brown could be interesting. Follows the mantra. Howie Roseman loves like former 5-star recruits. I believe he was. But we'll go with Chase Lund here, the 6'8". I mean, just Stoutland being a size queen. Pause. That's kind of his mantra, and he can work with it. Assuming that Lund has good footwork. That seems to be like the common denominator. If you have good footwork and you're huge, Stoutland's gonna want you. And I figure we'll go with Lund there as a potential gamble. Wide receiver could be. Ooh. Now we're getting into steel territory. So Arian Smith might run the fastest 40, and I think that 281's probably going to shoot up if he runs like a low 4.3s. Elijah Badger was pretty solid for my Gators last year, underrated. Maybe Howie Roseman tries getting a Gator. I really do like Kyle Williams. Those of you that are OGs, remember Kyle Williams from our UNLV series. He was at UNLV. He was literally the only good offensive weapon we had. Supposedly he killed it already at the bowl game. You have Nick Nash, who's like the leading receiver in college football. But off of what I've seen, if we're doing this, I like Ricky White at a UNLV. Big-time player, alpha wide receiver, 1,000 yards on not a prolific passing offense. I think there's absolute value there. And then, let's move this up here a little bit so we can finish the mock draft. Still need corner, quarterback, kicker. I was almost locking in automatically on kicker. But I think after seeing how Jake Elliott played in the playoffs, I think that bought him enough to, like, let's get off his back a little bit. I'd really, running back, I would not hate, in case, Kenny G's gone, and our running back room is Will Shipley and Saquon Barkley. Another running back that's not currently on the roster would be pretty cool. I think looking at the names that are here, Bashal Tutton, I was hoping he was going to be here, because he's kind of been like my late round steal. Honestly, these are the names that are available. You got Rocket Sanders, Damian Martinez, Jordan James. I was very impressed with LaQuinn Allen. The 2 times I watched Syracuse play, he had huge games. Kyle Monangai is a beast. Jarquez Hunter out of Auburn. Like, honestly, I wouldn't draft a running back. If these are the guys that are actually available, I'd be making one of these guys like a priority UDFA type play. So with our last pick, I'm more so like, what don't we have? What can I leave this draft with? Billy Bowman, I think, has great. I think the value here is at safety. I think these guys here still available in the 5th round is absolute value. But I mean, we got so much depth at safety right now. It's just like all right, who can be our Milton Williams type? You know, Howard Cross. I mean, Mills is, and I'm pretty sure was a member on Bruce Feldman's freaks list. He's coming off an injury. Like, if he's healthy and can test, maybe. But Howard Cross also is an, undersized. He's like 285 for an interior pass rusher, and at least gives us more depth at that Milton position, which I think we might just try to win with a committee approach. We're not going to be able to replace Milton Williams outright, I do think, and I love what I saw to Jomo late, but I think at the end of the day, probably just throwing a couple bodies at that position would be the best path forward. So that is my mock draft here on Mock Draft Monday, number 1 for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I make pick 169 with an asterisk that with all those running backs still available, like there's going to be a great priority UDFA to add to that running back room. I mean, the only pick I don't love is just kind of throwing something here at tackle in Lunt. Maybe early. But again, there's just these mock drafts are going to be fun to do for the Philadelphia Eagles, but also very difficult to do because the roster construction right now, all the pending players, the question marks are going to drastically change how you want to attack a mock draft scenario for the Philadelphia Eagles. But 32, linebacker pass rush, Zach Baun pass rush type guy, Jahad Campbell. I don't think he's going to be available at 32 after the combine, so we'll get this one in before the stock starts rising. Walker is a buy low, high ceiling, trust Vic Fangio can get him and Jordan Davis on the interior alongside Jalen Carter. Just destroy teams. Helmet tight ends, good pick. Chris Paul, awesome value. And then day 3 is what it is. So I'd love to hear what you guys think. Who is your dream first-round pick for the Philadelphia Eagles? Let me know in the comment section below. We're going to continue every single Monday with Mock Draft Mondays for the Philadelphia Eagles. And anytime any big draft expert, Daniel Jeremiah, Mel Kiper, Dane Brugler on Athletic, drops a mock draft, we will react to that mock draft as well. I'm going to get ready to start doing some... I think a cool series would be looking at the names that we're about to lose, like for Zach Baun, and then maybe look at 3 to 4 to 5 guys that could potentially replace Zach Baun. Same with Mekhi Becton. Same with Josh Sweat. Same with Milton Williams. I think that'd be kind of a cool series that I do want to try to play to do here for draft season. If that's something you guys want to see, let me know in the comment section below. But at the end of the day, that is how we are going to wrap up today's video. If this is your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. Until next time, it's your boy C4 saying peace out. Love ya. Have a good one.